Namaste and welcome, beloveds, to this holy light circle celebration of infinite light. As we focus on the infinite light that we are, the infinite power that we have. We start with the light first. Divine being. And see the world from the perspective of divine being. The unchanging nature. The unchanging, because we're so used to playing in the garden of change. It's been really funny today because Jesus is talking about the itch. The itch of other. The itch to experience other. Like the itch to insist there is an other. And as we look at each of these denials, he says, really be present with him as the divine light. Be present with the itch rather than giving into the itch. See it as desire and be fully present with the admission of the desire, almost so that it can't go out looking for a place to land outside. See, in fact, that the itch occurs inside totality, all that is. That nothing's occurring outside. This is happiness, nothing occurring outside. It's just the insistence that it is, the itch. It's like that itch you have to scratch by projecting on a brother or something happening in form. It's like the belief that an insect bites you, a mosquito, and we have to scratch it, which may or not be true. But it's just so, it becomes like this urgency somehow to just go out and shape it into an object of other. And as we look as this infinite light and see how quickly the answers come in that light. Does divine being know a beginning or an end? This light that we are, can that be found, a beginning or an end? And see how quickly that and simply that answer comes in direct experience. And to follow that voice. Does the divine light that we are have an itch to scratch? That's a good question. Does it know an itch? Does it know anything that needs to be addressed in any way? Just is what is. And so now we have a book of, 500 pages to tell us all the itches that we want to scratch. All the itches that say, I've got to scratch this, but Jesus, I have to scratch this one. I really do. I want to. I want to scratch it so badly. And he just stands there and we ask the light again. Does the light know any itches? And then we start to see what's a contraction. That hunger or pain, like that addiction. I'm seeing it. He's showing it to me in spades. You really want that. It's like, oh, yes, Jesus. But it's so simple. It's so much easier just to say, yes, I want it. Oh. So that's all we're doing in the light circles is seeing all the itches. He's showing us where all the itches are. That's an itch I really must, because we're so sure we have to scratch those itches. It's somehow, if I just scratch that itch, Jesus, my world will be better. And then he brings us back to this infinite light. Let's look at this with the infinite light. Does the infinite light need to scratch this right now? No. Infinite light just is. And just is. And so we learn from our brother where all our itches are to scratch. We want to scratch through our brother. That's the entire Course in Miracles. Your brother comes and reminds you of which itches you were just wanting to scratch with every bit of power that you have. That's what the brothers. He said this was going to be spontaneous. Oh, it's so funny to laugh, but we see it. That slightest tension, your brother comes up, oh, I'm just in this meditation. It's just, I'm going to meditate and I'll be at peace. And then a brother walks by and says something. You just feel that tension. That's the itch. That's the projection itch. That's invested in. Because we look back at what is in contrast, he's showing us the contrast. What is just is. No itches, no projections, no problems, no. Does infinite light, no pain. We look because we can see it. So he's deconditioning all the itches that deny the divine power of divinity. Every one of them. He's so clear that one itch denies the kingdom of heaven. Wow. We see it because we feel the contraction. We feel that we're abdicating the heaven. But then heaven's still there. And then decisions in the world are all made on itches. The itches that need, so decisions are based on itches. The itch to scratch. Oh my God. When you really see it, it is pretty funny. Because decisions actually deny divinity. Seeming decisions in the world that are not of the spirit, that are not aligned with the spirit. Because the whole purpose of the spirit, we see this, is to show us there are no decisions to be made whatsoever. What is doesn't make any decisions. Because it doesn't know between two. We can see when we look, does infinite being make any decisions whatsoever? No decisions. Does infinite being have any beliefs whatsoever? No beliefs. And Jesus says here, for a decision is a conclusion based on everything that you believe, a conclusion. And if infinite love we see has no beliefs whatsoever, because beliefs are well, it's a desire for an itch. The itch of limitation. It's the itch for the feeling of limitation. We want to have that itch so we can feel limited and then follow the itch so we can prove that the limitation is true. So a decision is actually an itch that wants to prove its conclusion, a conclusion that based on everything that's believed. He says it's the outcome of belief and follows it as surely as does suffering follow guilt and freedom, sinlessness. So the ego is a denial factory, a denial of divinity factory, generating, consistently generating. And we're looking at everything now. So we don't fall for that itch. And see, the itch, it really felt good. We wanted the itch. That's what I'm thinking. I really want that itch. Ooh. And being really present with the desire first for the itch, rather than following it to some conclusion or some decision. Because within infinite being, there's no decisions. Like we see that, we can see if we look at infinite light that's here, there are no conclusions to make. So Jesus is pointing here, it's all for me. Stay with the itch and see the hunger for the itch, the desire, the hunger, the wanting more or less, that. Jesus, I feel pain. There must be an itch. This gets to be a funny conversation with Jesus. It's so much lighter. Jesus, I feel tension. It must be an itch. Must be a desire. I feel mad. Must be a desire. Must be an itch. Itch to deny myself all the love the Father has given to me. That's a whole new way to describe A Course in Miracles. This is a book on all the itches that you want to scratch. I love it. Okay. It's like perception rests on choosing. So it's an itch to have perception. Does divine being can we find perception in divine being? And knowledge does not. We see divine being, knowledge rests just as itself, no choice. Knowledge has but one law because it has one creator. And that's what Jesus keeps pointing, stay as knowledge. The itch is to bite the apple of knowledge, but not the knowledge of God, the knowledge of otherness. Bite the apple. Oh my gosh, this is funny. Okay. He has decided he is not his father's son because the son is mad. The Son of God decided to have an experience of insanity. Wanting an itch. It will change for the tiny mad idea to the tiny itch. Because that's what, it's the tiny itch. This you believe. Sanity must lie apart from both the Father and the Son. Think not that this belief depends on the form it takes. Who thinks the world is sane in any way is justified in anything it thinks or is maintained by any form of reason, believes this to be true. The tiniest itch is a denial of divinity, infinite love. If God is just, then there can be no problems that justice cannot solve. But you believe that some injustices are fair and good and necessary to preserve yourself. Jesus, show me the desire to have an experience, that itch to have an experience that some injustices are fair and good. Sitting so deeply for the desire for the experiences that some injustices appear to be fair and good. And necessary to preserve yourself. The desire for an experience in which some injustices are fair and good and necessary to preserve myself. There is no time, no place, no state where God is absent. There is nothing to be feared. There is no way in which a gap could be conceived in the wholeness that is His. Jesus, I'm willing to see the desire to experience a gap between myself as I am and all that is. It's so powerful to go to desire for these things and see it at the level of the desire and the want for it with Jesus. The compromise the least and littlest gap would represent in His eternal love is quite impossible. Just with that one sentence, it's valuable. The compromise the least and littlest gap would represent in His eternal love is quite impossible. Being really present with how it's felt, that one sentence. In the light of infinite being, does the light of infinite being that we are experience any gap? And does it see any possibility for compromise? For it would mean His love, God's love, would harbor just a hint of hate. Jesus, I'm willing to see that desire for that hint of hate, that itch for hate. and see that in the light of truth. For that is the sword against myself that I would cut myself with. Which would turn the infinite love of the Father as though it is against myself as attack. All this do you believe when you perceive a gap between your brother and yourself. I'm really willing to see the investment in the experience of a gap between my brother and myself. The gap to find my brother wrong as I desire an experience of myself being wrong. A gap of belief that my brother may want to attack me. That my brother may not want the best for me, as I desire an experience of not wanting the best for myself. That my brother can't be awake or know God, as it is my desire not to be awake and know God. momentary protest against this deep looking. But it doesn't change what's here. No. There's still so much love. This attack idea against the brother is very deep. And it's unchanged by anything that shows up in form. We aren't changed by anything, coughing or nothing. It's like no protest can stop the looking, however it appears in form. Can you not hear? We lost sound. Let's see. Can you hear me now? Good. Yeah. And do we pause the record?
No, you didn't. You just put okay, stop video.
Yeah. So regardless of what protests seem to come up about this deep looking, all's well. It doesn't change anything. Changes nothing, actually. Doesn't change anything. Doesn't change love. It can look in any way that it wants. This deep looking at the idea that the other, the brother, it's funny. I asked Jesus about this. I said, Jesus, what's this coughing? He said, expression of infinite love in that moment. Expression of infinite love in that moment. I asked him, he's actually saying it's not a protest. Very interesting. I thought, oh, this has got to be a protest. He says, no. Infinite love expressing in that moment. It looks like coughing. Yeah. So I'm really grateful for these circles to really look at those denials of my brother, actually. And my brother's not completely whole and holy and precious and complete. And to see that all is well, regardless of how it shows up in form. And that it's all perfect happiness, unless I have a desire not to have that experienced as happiness. Thank you for joining us for this session. Amen.
If you have anything to share, express, it's open. Otherwise, we can just end in silence. That was the greatest lesson in see no error for here. See no error, non-attachment to the way it looks. Namaste.